my name's Gary Ford, Managing Director of Tiger Hobbies Limited, UK imports and distributors in the UK hobby trade. And welcome to Part 6 and the Battle of IWO JIMA. Operation Detachment, one of the most intense battles of World War II that was fought over such a small area of no more than 8 square miles. So why did the US forces want this volcanic island in the middle of nowhere, about 800 miles northwest of Saipan? Two main reasons. First, protect the northern flank of the Marianas. Secondly, IWO JIMA had a number of airfields and the potential to extend these fields for returning B-29 superfortresses that needed a diversion airfield if damaged coming off a bomber raid. Also a forward airfield for fighters such as the P-51 Mustang. For the Japanese, IWO JIMA was part of an inner line of defensive islands which gave the Japanese forward notice of US bombers attacking Japan from the Marianas. IWO JIMA was placed under the command of General Kuribayashi. Behind me, one of Japan's most forward-thinking and most capable generals, who went for a defence in depth rather than confronting the powerful US forces on the beach. He would hit the Americans from prepared bunkers and strongpoints away from the beach. Mount Suribachi, that lies at the end of IWO JIMA, would be tunnelled out to provide gun positions overlooking the beach. The Japanese also, over a period, put some 20,000 defending troops on this island, plus dug 11 miles of tunnels. Virtually, the whole island was covered in tunnels. As early as June 1944, even before the main assault on the Marianas, the US Navy and the United States Army Air Force would start to bombard IWO JIMA in the longest pre-bombardment of any island later to be assaulted, almost 9 months. Thinking that no one would survive this sort of attack. But the Japanese were already deep in their bunkers and deep in their tunnels. The Japanese were also learning of these UDT, underwater demolition teams, and actually spotted and killed a number of these UDT commandos on the beaches. Prior to the US landings on the 19th of February 1945, the US Navy positioned hundreds of warships around IWO JIMA. Each one was given a grid of land on this island, and for 3 days, every single inch of this island was bombarded by naval gunfire. The US command were confident that little was going to live. After months of bombardment and the 3 solid days of bombardment, unfortunately the deaths of a number of UDT commandos and US ships been hit by returning Japanese fire worried senior US Marine officers who were told the beaches were excellent and should pose no problems. Just before 9 AM on the morning of the 19th of February 1945, the first waves of US Marines started to come ashore from LVTs and LCVPs and LCMs and found very little, if any, incoming fire. So had the big guns done the job on the Japanese? What did meet the US Marines was very loose black sand and a very steep embankment, making it difficult to get troops and vehicles over it. I'm showing a clip from the 2006 Clint Eastwood directed Flags of Our Fathers that shows brilliantly the initial beach landing by the US Marines and US Navy on IWO JIMA. As you can see from the clip behind me, the vast amounts of US Marine equipment coming ashore on IWO JIMA and the congestion of so much equipment and men, plus the steep embankment they need to go over. You also notice all the different versions of LVTs, LCVPs and LCMs as well. General Kuribayashi held his fire until the beaches were totally crammed with equipment and men. They also let the Marines advance at least a few hundred yards inland, still holding their fire. Suddenly, all hell broke loose, and the Japanese from hidden positions on Mount Suribachi and from hidden dugouts hit the US Marines with everything they got, machine guns and heavy artillery, blasting the crammed beaches, causing so much damage and casualties amongst the US Marines. As one US Marine stated, "My God, this is a nightmare in hell." Naval Combat Battalions or Construction Battalions, CBs, braved incoming fire to bulldoze through this sand embankment so LVTs and M4 Shermans, many equipped with flamethrowers, could get further inland and support the Marines. The Japanese, under direct command of General Kuribayashi, did not use the suicide tactics of banzai charges, but rather fought from strong points or attacked in small groups, hitting the US Marines from all sides. The well-in-place guns on Mount Suribachi were also hitting the US Navy support vessel and causing quite large casualties amongst US Navy sailors. Slowly, the US Marines, now with tank support, moved forward to the first airfield, but the Japanese were making them fight for every grain of black sand. And only way forward was flamethrowers and explosives. Marine casualties were starting to grow in serious numbers, and the Japanese were seemingly appearing from everywhere and nowhere. By the 23rd of February, after about 4 days bitter fighting, men of the 5th Marine Division managed to get to the top of Mount Suribachi and raise a small flag at around about 10 AM. But local commanders wanted a larger flag so it could be seen from the beaches and even out at sea. So the first one was taken down, and 6 Marines raised the large flag, and photographer Joseph J. Rosenthal quickly snapped the picture. This picture would win the Pulitzer Prize and become one, if not the most iconic picture of World War II. I'm showing a clip from the 1949 movie Sands of Iwo Jima, starring John Wayne as Sergeant Stryker, to show the flag raising. Yes, this is all very Hollywood. But as I stop the movie, as you can see behind me, there's John Wayne handing a flag over to 3 young Marines in the foreground. That flag is the actual flag they raised on Iwo Jima, one of the most treasured artifacts of the US Marines, and it was lent to the film company. And also, the 3 Marines in the foreground were no other than the 3 surviving flag raisers on the second flag raising. That's Rennie Gargon, plus Native American Ira Hayes and Navy Corpsman John Bradley. So it's fitting to show this clip. Before Mount Suribachi was finally taken, no one knows how many Japanese were killed in the tunnels. Many of them killed themselves with grenades, but over 800 US Marines paid with their lives trying to take Mount Suribachi. And the battle would go on for about 36 days from the landing, and the US Marines were fighting stubborn Japanese who'd been ordered to fight to the very, very last. Some of the worst fighting were found around Airfield No. 2 in the centre of the island, and just beyond it, Hill 362, known as the Meat Grinder. Here, the Japanese, against the orders of higher command, started to use banzai charges, and in one charge over 90 Marines were killed, but the Marines fought back, virtually wiping out all of the 1,000 attacking Japanese. Iwo Jima was the battle of the flamethrower, and the US Marines used about 10,000 gallons of napalm each day, either in their backpack mounted flamethrowers or mounted on the Sherman tank. Slowly, the US Marines forced the Japanese to the north of the island, around where General Kuribayashi had his strong point, and the US forces declared Iwo Jima secure on the 16th of March 1945. But as late as the 25th of March, over 300 Japanese appeared and charged the Marines again around Airfield No. 2, causing heavy casualties amongst US Marines, Seabees and Air Force personnel. It is rumoured that General Kuribayashi may have led this attack, as his body was never found or identified. The US Army's 147th Infantry Regiment, the Ohioans, had a job of cleaning out the remaining Japanese and killed over 2,000 Japanese soldiers after officially the battle was over. In fact, I think they killed 6,000 Japanese for the loss of, say, 15 soldiers and 44 wounded. In fact, the very last Japanese would not give themselves up on Iwo Jima until 1949.